Got the mill torn apart. Took the head off and I thought about rebuilding it, but I think I'm going to leave it alone for now. But I did have to remove it to replace the bolts that hold it on, because you see the T-bolts that hold the head on, somebody broke them, and then instead of just, it probably would take them 10 minutes to pull that head off and replace the bolts. They drilled the center of the bolt and tapped it, and then put these tiny little 1/4-inch thread fastener in it. So I pulled the head off to replace those bolts, and then I'm gonna power it up and see how it sounds before I decide to tear all that apart. But there's so much kind of dried oil and buildup on the ways that I kind of needed to take the machine apart, get it all cleaned up. The worst part was taking this ram off, and I think it was mostly just because it's barely ever used. The ways were dry. Here's the knee. You can see to me, I'm no expert, but just looking at this, it looks pretty uniform all the way across. It's dirty, I know, but you can still see some of the hand scraping in there. So that side's real dirty. And you can see it's full of chips, but everything's been coming apart. You can see there's some damage there, but that's not a critical surface. I'm not really sure what the hell happened there. But that needs cleaned out. These need cleaned up. And then here's the carriage, I believe it's called, and the screws. I noticed those lead screw nuts, they're kind of adjustable. I've watched some videos on how to tear this thing apart and how everything works, but they were pretty much, I think, tightened up as much as they go. So it's probably fairly worn out. The gibs were also, I don't know, I haven't cleaned them up yet. I can still see some scraping on them, but they were also seem to be pretty deep in the adjustment groove with the little screw that rides here. Whatever is here, it's very hard. I think it's just dried up oil. But I sprayed it with some cleaner, some solvent. I tried like the brake cleaner, and also some spray oils like WD-40. Just help soften up the oil, but whatever it is, it's pretty tough. I think it's just, who knows how old. If somebody knows how to tell how old this machine is, let me know. I do see a number. Looks like it's J121089. And then on the front here, there's something. So I'm not sure. If anybody knows how to tell, let me know. Alright, this is where I've gotten so far. The degreaser works pretty well, but concerned with flash rusting or surface rusting, I've switched to just using WD-40 and solvent. That way it at least has some kind of oil on it. Everything else I'll probably get a gallon of mineral spirits and use that to clean up everything, but this is probably about as clean as it's getting. I'll give it one more wipe down. And I haven't cleaned the ways yet on this one. But I did take this top pivot off. I don't know what you call this piece. And I had a little bit of rust. I cleaned it all up really good. And then used the flat stone and just very lightly went around it and made sure it was smooth. I did notice on the top here, you can see there's a high spot. Somebody probably hit it with a hammer or something here. But I have this flat stone, and this is not a hand scraped surface. You can see it's just a fly cut. So with some oil, I just slide this around, and I can feel it was dragging a little bit. Now it feels pretty smooth all the way across. That side's completely glass. Same with that surface. Now I think the dovetail might be scraped, I'm not sure, but they look pretty good. I just cleaned them up with some fine steel wool and oil. I've been working on cleaning this ram up. Definitely had some rust. I've just used a wire brush, a razor blade, and some fine steel wool to clean this up. And it's not going to be perfect. Somebody had gotten paint on this back section, so I had to use a razor blade. Try to scrape that off. Just try and clean it up. You can see somebody chipped it there somehow, which I guess doesn't matter. But clean up around here with a file just so make sure it's not proud in the dovetail. So I know this might be a hand scraped surface, but I just have to make sure that's not proud. So I'm just going to chamfer a little bit around it. Alright, this is clean as it's going to get. With the flat stone glides across the whole way. You can see where it had some high spots right there. Just wiping it down again with a little bit of light oil like WD-40. That's just to clean it. Make sure I get all any bit of abrasive bits or pieces of steel wool off. Once I get this lifted up in the air, I'll wipe it down one more time before I slide it together, and I'll put some proper oil on it, whey oil. See, the stone glided across all this very smoothly, but took a little, started cleaning up the very ends. You can see that had a high spot, and then a little bit in the front. That's where I went. This doesn't ride on anything. The same here, and there's a shot of the dovetail. Alright, now that I got it mostly in position, just going to give it one more wipe. Oil. This is just just to clean it, and then before I slide it together, I'll stick the whey oil on it. The oil here just gives it something that the abrasives and whatnot will stick to. But you can see it's wiping very clean. And I just realized I better stick the lock blocks in place or I'm gonna be upset. Alright, I got the little lock blocks in. I just cleaned them up some and then sprayed them with that corrosion inhibitor. It's basically a cosmoline spray. But I just put it on and then kind of wipe it, so it's a very thin layer. And then this is some of that special goo. Alright. See how stringy that stuff is. It's got the tackifiers in it, make it real stringy. There's strings hanging all off this. Hopefully I don't get it on the camera. Let me get this started. I'll bring the camera back up. Alright, I got it started on there. Actually went together very nicely, considering just about everything I could do to get it off. Take some weight off of it here. And seems to be sliding very easy. Aha. Probably should put the bolts in. Well, I got the ram on. And the head seems to rotate nicely. Put some grease on the threads of these lock bolts. And it doesn't take much. I can actually just snug these up by finger, and I'm not able to slide the ram. Try to clean up the dials some. There's a little corrosion right there still, but I just took a Scotch-Brite pad and some steel wool. Trying to clean up these. I went ahead and cleaned up the table. I'm not sure why, but the ways on the table are so shiny. I guess because they're horizontal. They didn't get any rust buildup on them. You can see there's a little bit in there. Down in the corner where I don't think anything rides. Cleaned up the gib and installed it. I cleaned up these ways the best I could. You can still see they kind of have a little bit of surface rust on them, but I mean, I did use a Scotch pad on it just a little bit, very gently, along with some steel wool and oil. I definitely don't want to really take off too much, but everything I've just done maybe 3 or 4 strokes with the flat stone, just to make sure there was no burrs or high spots on anything. And then I just cleaned it up with some steel wool. Then on the whey cover, where that somebody had that painting done, I just took the flat file, and on all the non-important surfaces. I just took that flat file, just knocked down any high spots. It'll work for what I do. And it only cost me less than $1,000 for the machine, so I gotta clean up some of the gunk in that gear. And I'll put some grease on it. And get that head back on. I think that's it for this video. Tomorrow, I'll try to record some more. I still gotta put everything inside of here. I had to take the oiler ports out. You can see that line is pinched there too. Might have to address that. But I had to take those out because they were clogged. So I'm gonna have to try to, well, I got the holes cleaned up, but I need to make sure this line here is free. And then you just reassemble all that stuff. Put all the oiling lines back on, so it's a good thing I checked those, because it would have pissed me off if I assembled it and then found out the feed holes were plugged. I got it sitting on some 2x6s, and it's a little close to the lathe, but you can see the doors on the lathe are open. They have enough room to open. And I don't ever turn anything long in the lathe anyhow, and if I really push this wood table further off the lathe, it would probably fall, so that's fine. And hopefully I'll be up and running in no time. Thanks for watching. Bye.